On the evening of May 17, 1978, Austin police officer Ralph Ablonedo stopped a car and issued a citation to the driver for failing to display a driver's license. Ablonedo asked the dispatcher to check for local warrants on the driver and passenger David Lee Powell. The dispatcher found no warrants on the driver. As the car pulled away, Ablonedo learned from the dispatcher that there was a possible warrant on Powell for misdemeanor theft. Ablonedo stopped the vehicle again, and as the officer approached the driver, Powell shot at the officer through the car's back window with an AK-47, knocking him to the ground. The weapon was set to semi-automatic mode, which required him to pull the trigger more than once. Powell switched to automatic mode and fired at Officer Ablonedo again, knocking the officer to the ground a second time. The car then left. Heavily armed, deeply paranoid and strung out on drugs, David Lee Powell was a nightmare personified in 1978. Sitting in a car that had been pulled over on a dark Austin side street, Powell sighted his AK-47 through the rear window. Police radios caught Officer Ralph Ablonedo's scream as the first bullet penetrated his bulletproof vest. 9 more shots found their mark. The well-liked father of 2 young sons died shortly after the 12:30 a.m. attack. Meanwhile, the dispatcher, on learning that there was a possible arrest warrant on Powell, had sent another police officer to check on Ablonedo. When the officer arrived at the scene a few minutes later, he found Ablonedo lying on the ground. Ablonedo told the officer that he had no chance to pull his weapon. Although Ablonedo had been wearing a bulletproof vest, it was not designed to withstand fire from an automatic weapon. Ablonedo suffered 10 gunshot wounds and died on arrival at the hospital. Other police officers tracked Powell's car to an apartment complex parking lot. Powell fired on the officers with his AK-47 from inside the vehicle, and threw a live hand grenade in the direction of the officers and then fled from the car. The hand grenade did not explode because Powell had not removed all of the safeties. Police arrested Powell in the early morning hours in some bushes on the grounds of a nearby school. They also discovered a .45 caliber automatic pistol hidden under shrubs on the grounds, as well as Powell's backpack, containing 7 packages of high-grade methamphetamine. Further investigation revealed that Powell had fired at least 23 rounds of ammunition, and police uncovered 15 live rounds in Powell's car. Police also retrieved from Powell's car a book entitled Book of Rifles, tabbed at pages discussing a Soviet AK-47 rifle. The book contained loose notes in Powell's handwriting about different types and models of weapons and notes referring to other books on weapons. Books and notes regarding guerrilla warfare and a pair of handcuffs were also found in the car. A search of Powell's residence led to the discovery of another hand grenade, additional weapons and ammunition, more books and manuals on weaponry and combat, the components of a methamphetamine lab, and 3 vials of methamphetamine. On September 28, 1978, Powell was convicted and sentenced to death by a Travis County jury for capital murder. On July 8, 1987, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals affirmed his conviction and sentence on direct appeal. On June 30, 1988, the U.S. Supreme Court vacated the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals judgment and remanded the case. On January 11, 1989, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals once again affirmed Powell's conviction and death sentence. On July 3, 1989, the United States Supreme Court reversed Powell's conviction. On November 21, 1991, Powell was convicted and sentenced to death a second time. On December 7, 1994, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals affirmed the conviction on direct appeal, but vacated the death sentence. On October 2, 1995, Powell's petition for writ of certiorari to the U.S. Supreme Court, appealing the affirmation of his conviction, was denied. On March 6, 1999, after a third punishment trial, Powell was again sentenced to death. On January 16, 2002, Powell's death sentence was affirmed by the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals on direct appeal. On November 4, 2002, the U.S. Supreme Court denied certiorari review. On September 25, 2002, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals also denied Powell's application for writ of habeas corpus. On April 16, 2008, the U.S. District Court denied a federal petition for writ of habeas corpus. On July 16, 2008, the U.S. Court of Appeals granted a certificate of appealability, but affirmed the denial of habeas relief. On March 23, 2009, the U.S. Supreme Court denied Powell's subsequent petition for writ of certiorari on March 23, 2009. On September 30, 2009, a second application for state habeas was dismissed by the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. Powell's capital murder conviction is his only conviction. However, he was previously arrested for auto theft in Travis County, auto theft and possession of dangerous drugs in Travis County, obscenity in New Orleans, Louisiana, and petty theft in Travis. Barring the unexpected, Powell was executed for the killing of a police officer on June 15, 2010, 32 years, 3 weeks and 5 days, after Blanado was buried with honors. Texas has never executed a man after so much time has passed, giving rise to a question that speaks to a basic concept of punishment and justice. Has Powell's execution been robbed of its meaning and purpose? The clean-cut 59-year-old man who will be strapped to the Huntsville gurney to receive a trio of lethal drugs is nothing like the nightmare from another era. Powell's time in prison long ago removed the methamphetamine taint that helped turn a promising honors student into a jittery, lank-haired killer. And a fiercely loyal group of supporters insists that putting him to death now would be a travesty. He's the old David Powell, intelligent, compassionate, articulate and thoughtful, and no longer poses a danger to society. But for those most touched by Blanado's murder, Powell's execution remains a meaningful and desired goal. For some officers, Powell's death is a matter of fairness, an eye for an eye that validates their service in a dangerous profession and adds a measure of protection by sending a clear message. If you kill a cop, you die. More than 100 current and retired Austin police officers, including Blanado's friends, and some who weren't even born when he died, drove or took a chartered bus for an execution day trip to Huntsville, which they're calling the Journey to Justice. Those who can't make it will toast a Blanado in the downtown Austin bar at 6 p.m., the time set for Powell's execution. Since Powell's first conviction in 1978, Texas has executed 459 inmates, including 6 from Travis County. Of the 322 inmates on death row, at the time of his execution, only 5 have been there longer than Powell. Powell is the state's longest-serving member of death row to receive lethal injection. Thank you for watching Death Row.